question. So feel free to post any questions along the way, but we're going to provide you with a glimpse into Aerohive Network's very disruptive wireless LAN architecture and just what we're doing for our customers for the edge of their network. I'm Derek Sanchez. I'm a senior sales rep here for Aerohive, covering all commercial business for the Mid-Atlantic. So that consists of D.C., Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia, and Virginia. So we appreciate you taking the time to listen in, and let's go ahead and get started. So for those that are not familiar with Aerohive, we've been around since 2006, started shipping product in 2007. Over the course of this time, we've been the fastest growing wireless LAN vendor in the space, growing very, very rapidly quarter over quarter, year over year, due to our very disruptive offering, our very disruptive enterprise offering. We have over 15,000 customers using the product today, and it's really across all markets. Every customer, really any customer out there, any company or state, local, or educational organization, they're all dealing with challenges with wireless and mobile devices and how to support them securely and reliable. So whether it's education, retail, healthcare, mid-market, or large enterprise, we're talking to all of them because they're all looking at challenges and complexities around the traditional way to do wireless, but also just in general supporting these mobile devices. One of the biggest things that we've done is we've removed the need of a controller in your network to support enterprise Wi-Fi. So the traditional approach to doing enterprise wireless is to have a controller or multiple controllers in your environment to support enterprise type offerings, whether it's security or roaming or just centralized management and control of the network. And so you look at the common names out there for enterprise Wi-Fi, and it all involves racking a large controller in your data center, having a standby for kind of an N+1 setup and resilience, and then having additional controllers if you're distributed and you have multiple sites across your company. You may even be at the situation where you have multiple controllers other than those two at different locations of your network. And with Aerohive, the biggest thing that we've done is we've removed the need to have that controller. And so what we've done is we've developed a solution that removes the controller and takes all the features that normally sit on the controller. We've turned them into protocols and have them distributed amongst the access points. So what that allows for is a system that's, one, very cost effective because you're not having this large purchase wrapped around a controller. There's no limitations around the scalability of the infrastructure. You can buy small and expand as you need to. And you don't have any bottlenecks or U-turns or even issues around resilience with the network because you don't have that single point of failure with the controller. So with our access points, they're all, you can think of them as smart APs, and then they're all essentially configured, monitored, maintained, and managed through our management system, HiveManager. What we call, as far as that communication between HiveManager, our management system, and the access points, switches, and routers that we provide is called cooperative control. And then really, in essence, it's what allows us to do enterprise wireless without that controller. It's very similar to what you'd see within switching and routing, right? With switching and routing, you'd see things like BGP, OSPF, spanning tree, those types of protocols. Our system works fairly similar. So access points, management software, all the communication, load balancing is all done in the APs. They're smart APs with centralized management and configuration. So a lot of the traditional approaches to enterprise Wi-Fi are at a breaking point, and a lot of it's due to just the demand around mobile devices, the demand around users wanting to be mobile across their environments. A lot of new devices coming into the enterprise looking for different types of access and different types of application, and it's led to a lot of complexity around how you scale, how you manage when you have these large controllers as a stopping point as far as scale and just overall build out. So with Aerohive, there's a couple of different product sets. We're primarily known for our enterprise Wi-Fi, but we also have branch routers and access switches. This solution overall is all managed, maintained, and configured through our management system called HiveManager. HiveManager can sit either in your data center or ours. We have an option where we call HiveManager Online, where we host it for you. So you can have your management software in the cloud. Or you can have it on site on a virtual appliance or a 1U appliance. So the option is yours. You have that flexibility. And then also, you have that flexibility even down the line to make changes, right? So if you standardize on HiveManager Online, and then a year later a new CIO comes in and wants to see a change, they don't like the cloud, they want management on site, you can very easily make that transition, move your management on site without disrupting what you're doing today with Aerohive. You're not looking at a rip and replace of the system just due to the fact of this minor change on the management system. The other thing that we do too is all of our features are built into our platform. So whether it's our stateful firewall, our roaming, or captive web portal, everything that we're going to talk about today is built in from a feature perspective. And then we do have applications that we can license in the cloud that are just provide a little more functionality around wireless and how you're leveraging the wireless. So for example, we have a robust management system for guest access called HiveManager. And we do guest access out of the box with a captive web portal, and you can do shared keys or private pre-shared keys depending on how you want to authenticate. But we also have a robust system we call HiveManager that allows you to do, easiest way to think of it is kind of like an automated workflow for your guest users. So you have the capacity of putting up a workstation at your front desk or in your lobby where users can go in, say they want wireless for the day, put in their information, their how they want to get their key sent, whether it's through an SMS or email or even through Twitter, all right? And so we send out that key for the day. It times out at the end of the day, and it's all done and managed through HiveManager. So it takes the IT team out of it. It takes the receptionist out of the equation and just provides an automatic workflow for guest access. We've also had customers start to get more clever with the system and even start to use it for BYOD, right, where they don't want to support all these BYOD devices. They don't want IT burdened with the providing specific keys to these BYOD devices as they come into the network. So HiveManager is used to provide corporate-type access to personal devices that employees own that they want on the network. We also have another solution called Client Management, which you can think of as a lightweight MDM that's cloud-hosted that gives you control over devices. So we currently support Chrome, iOS, and Android, where you can have a thin client on the device and take control over that device and just have some control overall around how that device is treating on the wireless or on the network. And then we also just introduced social login, which has been a big hit for retail. So if there's any customers that are on the call today that are in retail, we can just introduce social login where it gives you the capacity to have your customers log in via their social media accounts, so whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Google+, etc. So what you'll find is Aerohive continues to build an enterprise solution, a solution that can really allow for complete edge control, so manage your access points, switches, and routers, but at the same time building custom applications that are specific to the verticals that we're starting to see grow with our products. So retail, education, with our teacher view and student manager, and so forth. So a lot of cool things happening. Here's just a handful of some of the customers that may resonate for the East Coast customers that are joining the call here. We're doing a lot of things across all kinds of spaces, retail, education. Here's a handful of our enterprise customers that are shown here. But whether it's financial, law firms, retail like a Dollar Tree or Chipotle, or even manufacturing and distribution like a UPS. So every customer that we're talking to, they're all dealing with challenges around supporting these devices, whether they're legacy or new devices, on the wireless in a manner that's very secure and reliable. And the fact of the matter, a lot of these devices that are coming onto the networks nowadays don't even have Ethernet ports, right? And so it's even more so a concern to have a solution that's very resilient, very secure, because these devices are coming on, they're wanting onto the network, and their primary access is through the wireless network. So with Aerohive, we've always had security in mind, and since day one, we've built our hardware to support that. And so within our access points, we have embedded a TPM security chip, which encrypts all the information on the device. And being that an access point is fairly exposed, I mean, you could have it hanging from a ceiling tile, off of a wall, in a cubicle, but for the most part, it's visible, and someone, if they wanted to, they could grab it if they wanted to, right? And so we have a TPM security chip embedded into the device, so in the event of it getting stolen or into the wrong hands, all the data that's on the device is completely encrypted. It's kind of like what you'd find within like an ATM, for instance, when you do a transaction or withdrawal. Our founders are from NetScreen and Juniper, and so they were the first. NetScreen was the first ones to put a firewall into a chip, and that's kind of where we get the TPM aspect of things, as well as our stateful firewall. And then also on the Juniper side, switching and routing, right? So if there's things that we understand very well, it's the security piece of it, as well as the switching and routing from our Juniper side. So again, on the security side, TPM security chip, we have a stateful firewall that's built into the APs as well. So we can do a deep packet inspection and or deep packet control around the users coming on, and then also the applications, the layer 7 visibility and control on the wireless as well. And so with our latest versionings of code, you can now see the applications running on the Wi-Fi and start taking control over how you want to treat them on your network based on user, based on location and such. So if you wanted to remove the use of Netflix, BitTorrent, Facebook, remove them from your guest network, or throttle the bandwidth so that they're not going to impact your corporate network, you can now do that. So the scenario here to the bottom left just gives a kind of a glimpse as to the type of control that you can apply. This isn't set in stone. Our access points can support up to 16 SSIDs, but a lot of our customers are doing 2, maybe 3 SSIDs in most cases. But you see here as an example, guest policy. We're firewalling that user at the access point. We're getting them onto the guest VLAN where they can't touch your corporate network. We can get them out to the DMZ if you need to. Removing the use of Netflix or BitTorrent from the network. Throttling down their bandwidth to 1 meg per second, being that they're not mission critical to the corporate network, and then also restricting their access to business hours, right, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, so putting a schedule around that SSID. On the corporate side, we're finding that a lot of customers are doing .1x authentication, or at least moving in that direction. So our system supports Active Directory integration, LDAP, eDirectory, Open Directory, really any flavor of a directory out there we can integrate with. Our access points can act as a radius server, or we can point to a radius server that's on site, but there's a lot of flexibility around how to deploy with Aerohive. For those customers that do not support .1x or are not looking to have support 1x in their environment, we have a nice solution called private pre-shared keys. And private pre-shared keys are unique to Aerohive, and so it's similar to a pre-shared key, but it's private to the individual. And so what that means is it's an individual key per user, right? So if you take the example, if you hand out a key to every user on your network, one, you have the visibility of who that user is because you know who that key went to, but also in the event where a device gets lost, a user gets fired, they leave the company at their own will, what have you, you can revoke that individual key without impacting network access for the rest of the clients on the network. The other side of things too is there's on occasion situations where customers want to do .1x, but at the same time, not all of their devices support it, and so private pre-shared keys are a very good alternative instead of just using a shared key. So a lot of different options. And so what I would encourage as we talk through things, and we'll hope to get some questions answered at the end of the call, but get with Nortec and they can provide a deeper dive around the Aerohive capacity, and then also help get the AP up and running so that you can do some testing in-house. BYOD is also something that we're seeing come up quite a bit. In this situation here, we have a separate SSID to support BYOD. A lot of customers treat it differently. Usually it's a flavor in between corporate and guest, where you have a restricted VLAN, you limit the amount of work applications, different type of bandwidth, and then different type of time schedule. But it varies. And the biggest thing there is you have that control to build it the way you want to. For example, with Aerohive, when I come into my network, I have 3 devices. I have my corporate issue Lenovo laptop, that's what I'm using today, but then I also have my smartphone and my tablet. So when I come into our network, we have one SSID. We have our Aerohive corporate SSID where we're doing .1x authentication. So I come in, I do my single sign-on to AD, I get access on my Lenovo to all the different resources, whether it's the Exchange server, the intranet, the internet, and whatever other applications they want me to gain access to. On my personal devices, when I access the network, I still use my same sign-on. So I still log into the same SSID. I still use my username and password. But our system's savvy enough to recognize that I'm a trusted user, but I'm on an untrusted device. And so based on that, puts me into a separate role, a BYOD role, where in that instance on my Android devices, I only get access to the Exchange server and the internet, right? So it's to a limited capacity, being that these are my personal devices, being that they're more mobile. So a lot of control there. So let's see here. So the cloud options, you can have it in your own cloud, your private cloud, or in the public cloud for the management system, but it's there to plan, provision, build policy, monitor, report, and even extend the life cycles of your system. It helps to reduce operating costs. Very easy to get started. We have a lot of customers that start with just a single AP and then grow to many. And the main reason why we have that flexibility is because we remove that controller. So a lot of times when you're entertaining the idea of rolling out a controller-based enterprise wireless LAN solution, your biggest decision is around what size controller do I want to buy now, right? Do I buy small knowing that I'm going to grow out of it, but that's all my budget accounts for, or do I buy big and not have enough budget to buy APs, but at least I have that scalability in mind, right? So it leaves you making decisions. Well, with Aerohive, you have one platform to purchase. It's our access points and management software. You standardize on what software you want, whether you want it on-site or in the cloud. And once you have that done, then you just start deploying access points and tying them to the system. So it makes it very, very simple. And then also manage from anywhere. So we have a lot of customers that want us to gain access. It's very easy to troubleshoot if you can manage from anywhere. So a lot of nice wins, if you will, as far as why you'd want it to be in the cloud. So the different options: HiveManager online, management system on site with a virtual appliance or a 1U. Again, this management system is completely out of band, and so it's just there for your configuration, your monitoring, your heat maps, your SLAs, quality of service, but it's not in band. And so what that means is in the event of your access points losing connectivity to your management system, it's not going to impact your wireless, right? It's not going to impact the features that are running for your wireless. Whereas if you look at other solutions that are controller bound, that controller does your firewall, that controller does your application visibility, that controller supports your layer 3 roaming. So in the event that you lose that controller, you're sacrificing functionality on your network. You're sacrificing to the point where you're willing to run it in a kind of handicapped state, if you will. And so usually the alternative is, well, buy another controller, so in the event that your mission critical wireless fails, you have a hot standby, right? With us, you don't have to worry about any of that. So here's the AP lineup for our access points. The hottest AP that we're selling right now is the AP230, and that's the access point that we're going to be handing out for those attending the call. It's the latest and greatest .11ac access point, gigabit Wi-Fi, so it supports AC, but it's also backwards compatible. It does ABG in as well as AC. Has the TPM security chip built into it. It's also been built purposely to support AF power, right? So a lot of customers will be running PoE switches and just running standard AF. AP230 can run off AF power. You don't need AT power, which is usually pretty helpful, so you don't have to forklift your edge switches just to run AC, or do power injectors or AC adapters to run AC. They're Plenum rated, but I guess overall, what you'll find with Aerohive is we have access points that are purpose-built for really any application. If you're needing an access point that's industrialized, so if you're running it in a warehouse or a distribution center where humidity and dust is a concern, AP390 is a good option. AP350 is a good option. If you're needing outdoor coverage for just blanket coverage outside, or the use of a point-to-point to connect buildings, AP170 is a great option for that. And so what you'll find is you're not going to have to make the decision to kind of force fit an AP for the application. We have a lot of APs based however you want to use them. I mean, some of the access points can even double as routers. So our AP330 and 350 can turn into a router where you can utilize a second Ethernet port to hang a ShoreTel phone off of it, or a network attached printer, or even use the USB on the back of it to plug in a 4G card and use that as your connection back to HiveManager and out to the internet. So along with the access points, start talking about the routers already. We have a handful of routers that you can utilize to support remote users, small branch offices. Nortec's a perfect example of how they use the routers within their network. I mean, they use the Aerohive APs across their site, but then they also use the routers to connect the users, the team, right? And so they'll hang a ShoreTel phone off the router, and it gives them an always-on VPN connection back to corporate resources, and it essentially just keeps their team that much more productive. But also you can treat it as a means of disaster recovery, a means of just kind of business continuity. So as we approach wintertime, for snow days, if everyone's just stuck at home, you have this connectivity just to keep your team up and running and always connected. Along with the routers, we also have the access switches, two 24-port switches and also a 48-port switch. Biggest thing here is everything from a hardware perspective, whether it's our access point switches or routers, they're all managed and configured through that same pane of glass, that HiveManager system. And I'll show everyone in a bit. But that HiveManager system is a single pane of glass, a single workflow to manage the entire edge of your network. And also, we also support zero-touch provisioning, which gives you the point where you can just drop ship an AP, drop ship an access point, or even a switch or a router, have that access point, switch, or router phone home to the HiveManager system and await its configuration. So you're not having to worry about truck rolls. You're not having to worry about benching a switch, configuring it, and then shipping it out and just crossing your fingers that nothing was fat-fingered, if you will. Everything's managed through the GUI interface, so you can just drop it, phones home to the management console, and then you just build the config and push. So it makes it very, very simple. So I guess the biggest takeaways up to this point, Aerohive has a centralized management platform that can be used to manage your access points, switches, and routers. So it's a complete edge story, network edge. It's there for your wireless, for your wired connections, your routing, your firewall, your VPN. You can reuse the policies. So we're all object-based within our management system. And so as you build objects for your different types of users, you can reuse those objects for that user across the network. So it gives them the exact same user experience, whether they're connecting over the wireless or connecting over a router or even just plugging into a switch. It makes it very, very easy to manage. Identity and context aware. So we have the network firewall built into the routers, switches, routers and APs. Knows your identity, knows where you're located, and knows your role and places you into that appropriate role, so you always have that same secure access wherever you are. We're service aware, so one of the biggest services that we talk about a lot nowadays is our support around Apple TVs. And so we have a system in our platform called Bonjour Gateway, which helps to utilize Apple TVs like AirPlay, AirPrint across subnets, essentially. So usually Apple TVs are really designed for a flat network, so our Bonjour Gateway platform allows you to use it across subnets, so just use it in the enterprise. So that said, I'll stop here. I'll go into our GUI interface, and then at the end of it, we'll see if we can answer some questions. Let me step out here. Make sure I'm not logged out. Okay, so this is Aerohive's sandbox. So this is our corporate network for our Sunnyvale office in California, and that's where I reside. We start you out in this dashboard screen where we give you widgets that give you visibility into the network summary, system summary, applications, and troubleshooting. You can also build other widgets if you want to, but that's just kind of what's pre-canned out of the box. But information just around network health, right? So unique Wi-Fi clients, distribution of clients across your network based on OS type, so Mac, Windows, iPhone, iPad, Android. All this is customizable, so these widgets you'll find here, if one of these wasn't a concern and you wanted to broadcast or show something else, you can easily make that change. And you can do that across all the different widgets here, so even system summary, applications, so the different applications that are running on our network today. You can see here Aerohive Mail. We support custom signatures, so Aerohive Mail is a signature that we built that we can report on. But things like GoToMeeting, Netflix video, Apple, iTunes, etc. And then also a widget for here or a tab here for troubleshooting. So wireless always seems to be one of those things where you want to set and forget it, but keep in mind that it's a very dynamic environment. You have a lot of different users, a lot of different device types, operating systems, moving around. The environment changes where you might build cubicles, build walls, take walls down. And so in the event that things come up, you want to make sure that you have a system that provides you with a lot of troubleshooting tools, has the right data in place that makes it accessible, that you can quickly solve the issues at hand. And Aerohive does a phenomenal job at putting together troubleshooting tools to help you through problems when they arise, right? So you can be proactive with it and just look at this and see top utilized APs, and this may get you to the point where you say, okay, this AP here in the corner or this AP here, it's being utilized quite a bit. I might want to look at adding a second AP so I can handle with that capacity, right? So it can help with capacity planning. It can help with channel planning for the access points. There's a lot of nice things you can do just with these tools here. The other thing to keep in mind too is if you're distributed and you have multiple sites, you can set up your topology so that you have your kind of hierarchy of different sites here. And so if you wanted to drill down on a particular site, or even by SSID and filter by SSID or even user profile, you can start to get very granular information around the wireless and how it's being used. So if I wanted to drill down here for my location or employees, and employee profile, you can start to see what the wireless is being used for. So iTunes, and this is just the application view. But a lot of granular information. That's all a few clicks away. So it makes it very easy to, one, get familiar with our system, and then I'll also just navigate through it. It's really intuitive. You have these different tabs on the top, so just to get quick access to different areas of the GUI interface. So the monitor tab, we go over here to our wireless clients. This is giving you an at-a-glance view of every device connected on our network at 9 o'clock this morning. This client health score is really nice because it gives you visibility into how every connection is looking on your network. So this would normally go from green to yellow to red. And so this is potentially an area we might want to look at where we want to click on this device to see what's going on. Looks like looks like it's having network health, right? So I don't know if he's left the premise or he's having trouble getting an IP address, but it gives you visibility proactively into starting to troubleshoot and figure out what's going on. A lot of other good information is put together here. And this is all customizable again, so if you wanted to remove any of these columns or add columns, you can definitely do so. One thing that's really nice too is you can see that this location is hyperlinked. So I can click on this location and see where the user is located on our floor plan. The other nice thing about this too is client OS. So you can see what operating systems are being used in your environment. So that's just helpful just to understand the distribution, but also if you wanted to create granular policies around how you treat specific OS types, you could do that. So if you wanted to say all Android devices that show up on my network, I don't trust them, I want to put them on my guest network, you can set up a policy that says all Android goes to guest. And as soon as we see the user and how they're signing on and what type of device they're on, we'll quickly move them into a profile where they only get guest access. And in this case, no access to the intranet, no access to the corporate resources, just straight out to the internet. And they might be bandwidth limited and be on that guest profile where they get access just during business hours. So a lot of control. But if I wanted to click on the user to see where they're located, I can click. There we go. And you can see that this user is located in this cubicle area right here. We can see what his coverage looks like from his laptop, and this is why he's being seen by these devices here. Because we have more than two devices seeing this device, we can do triangulation, and so we can pinpoint where this device is located. But what tends to be more powerful when it comes to the triangulation is, one, you can do it by overall clients across your network. So this is showing all the clients on the network. This is me right here. But also you can do it for rogue detection. So if you build your rogue policy and you want to report on rogues, you can see here these two rogues show up on our network, and these are just test APs, but they're rogues. They're rogues that we report on. So if you have a rogue policy set up, you can have the system alert you when a rogue shows up. And then you go in and you say, okay, well, these rogues are showing up. I don't trust them. I don't like them. I want to remove them from my network. And you just click this button, mitigate. And what we send is we'll send DOF packets to the device to render it useless. Really what this does is it buys you time. When it buys you time where you can mitigate it so it can't cause any harm, and then physically walk out there or have someone go out there and find out what's going on. If it's just an employee that brought in their home router and you just need to slap their hand, or if it's something malicious that you need to look into further, this mitigation tool buys you time. Another thing you could do with the floor plans as well is you can see your RSSI coverage. So you can see what your coverage looks like real time on the floor space. And so this is helpful when you're rolled out with Aerohive, but also in the planning phase. So I would presume that a majority of the customers that are on the phone today are on the call because they're entertaining the idea of running wireless or looking at a next generation of wireless. You can use this tool to plug in your floor plans, to draw in the different types of cubicles, elevator shafts, drywall, and then start placing access points to see how many access points you're going to need in your environment, where the optimal location is for them to be deployed based on what type of coverage you're looking for. And when I say what type of coverage, it really depends on your user density, what kind of applications you're running over the wireless. If you're looking to do link, for instance, over the wireless, you're going to want to plan for a network that has high density, right? So even kind of voice-like coverage. So you need -67 or better coverage throughout the entire facility. But based on all that, we can help give you an idea of how many access points you need to run across your network to support what you're looking to do for guest access, corporate access, and such. And that's something that Nortec and Aerohive can help you through. There's a reporting tab built in, so we give you a lot of pre-canned reports that are built into the system. So SLAs, security as far as the PCI compliance for retail. This is also helpful for healthcare within HIPAA. So just different security compliance and security reports are built in. What's really cool here, I mentioned that we do deep packet inspection with the application. So you take Facebook example. Not only can we see Facebook, but we can see the different Facebook applications within Facebook. So if you wanted to make Facebook, for instance, more of a read as opposed to write option, you can say, well, I'm going to allow users to Facebook, but I'm not going to allow them to do Facebook messaging, Facebook post, Facebook video chat, or maybe Facebook video because you just don't want it soaking up time or soaking up bandwidth. So you have this deep packet inspection of these common applications that tend to run in the networks, and you can take very granular control around how you want to treat them on your network based on user. Configuration tab, I'll just go quickly into the configuration tab and what you can find there. You look at the Aerohive policy. So this is our network today and how we're treating wireless. We have our employee SSID doing .1 authentication, guest SSID using our robust guest access platform, that kiosk that has the automated workflow for guest use, and then Apple TVs for our conference rooms. But you'll find here that based on the user and how they authenticate, they get placed into different types of roles, or they get access to different VLANs on the network, depending on who they are and what role they're in. Also, it's a single workflow for the entire edge of the network, so your switches are here, your routers are here, and you can reuse policies onto the wire. So you build your wireless policy, your employee, your marketing, your sales objects, and then you can just reuse those objects on your wired, so giving the seamless access across the network, whether they're wired or wireless. The one last tab here, the Tools tab. I had mentioned earlier that it's very useful to have a system that provides you with the right tools to do troubleshooting when you need to. Client Monitor is one of them. You can plug in a MAC address and see the authentication process, the roaming process, to see where you might be running into issues as far as authentication or how it's doing the handoff between APs. That tends to be very useful. You can do server tests if you're setting up Active Directory. You can see your LDAP test, your ID Manager test, your Radius test. So a lot of good tools here. We've come to the end of the slide or the presentation here. What I'll do is I'll bring up this criteria. So everyone joining this call, we're going to be providing a free AP230, and that's the new access point that we talked about, the gigabit Wi-Fi 11AC. It comes with 3 years of management, so it essentially is about a $1,000 value for joining the webinar. And so we'll send those out. Biggest thing is Allison with Nortec, she'll be needing your contact information, right? So contact info, a direct mail so we can send you out the access point. And what we'll do is we'll send it out to you. It'll take about a week or so to get it over to you. And then we can set up a conference call where we can get the access point set up and get you familiar with the interface so you can kick it around in your own network. All right. So that said, get with Allison with Nortec. If there's any questions, we can do a more personalized kind of one-on-one webinar just to give you a little more detail around the Aerohive and how it's going to integrate into your personal network. I'm going to kick this back over to Nortec because this is my first time using Link. I'm not sure how I can see questions.
Hi, everybody. So this is Dennis Irwin with Nortec. I can go ahead and field any questions. We haven't gotten any yet, but if anybody wants to IM a question in or just go ahead and ask, that'd be great. Derek, it does not look like we have any questions.
Hopefully that's a good thing, and I just covered everything very well. But if any questions do arise as this is all soaking in, if you will, let us know. If not, send over the information to Allison. We'll get the access point to you, and then upon setup, we can always do a Q&A as we get into the setup piece of it.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Okay, that's Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that, Nortec uses Aerohive. We have it installed here, and we use it every day, and we love it, and it's really a part of our infrastructure. Derek, thank you very much.
Of course, anytime.
All right, I'll be stopping the recording now. If anybody would like to view this recording in the future, it'll be posted on our website. So that's Nortec's website. Thank you guys very much.